Good Sunday morning, everyone. Schuyler Callihan here on Between the Eers. It is the morning after West Virginia falls 45-18 to Kansas State, and West Virginia loses another game to a ranked opponent. Stop me if you've heard me say that before. They are now 3-17 against such teams in the Neal Brown era, and seemingly no end is in sight. There's a lot of different things that you could probably take from this game. And I'm going to start before I dive into the whole tenure, the whole 6 years, the whole season. I'm going to this game and where it was still a game, it was 17-10. And I talked about this yesterday or last night in my initial thoughts article. I talked about it last night on the post game show. I talked about it on my Sunday morning column that's up on the website right now at West Virginia on SI. I don't understand why it's not being talked about more. The fourth down attempt by West Virginia at the end of the first half, they're getting ready to go and tie the game up potentially. I don't have an issue with going for it there on 4th and 1. I didn't actually, the thought of kicking the field goal never even crossed my mind. And I don't really think it probably crossed many minds that were watching that game. I think everyone that was watching this game unfold thought, yeah, you got to go for this because you can't win this game by kicking field goals. And my biggest issue was Neal Brown waiting so damn long to get the call to Garrett Green in for him to go make a play. And it's not like there was this weird communication or, there was something going on with the headset. No, Garrett Green was standing just outside of the sideline with Neal Brown out of a timeout. And this is exactly the thing or the things that always seem to pop up. It's small little details like this that always happen under this regime. Garrett's standing there next to Neal, waiting for the play call. He finally gets the call. He gets to go to the huddle, relays the call. By the time they get set up and aligned, there's maybe 4 seconds left on the play clock. Maybe. That gives you zero time to really truly look at what the defense is presenting, giving you very little opportunity to make any checks at the line of scrimmage if any were needed. And you didn't have a chance to catch Kansas State offside. Now, the play itself, I have no issue with, the call at least. Cole Taylor was wide open. If Garrett recognizes that half a second sooner, he's got a touchdown. Cole Taylor was wide open the entire time. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with going for it. I have an issue with waiting so long out of a timeout to get the play call in, giving your team a very little chance to succeed. Especially knowing that your quarterback has had issues understanding coverages at times. He doesn't see the field as well as most quarterbacks. And that night, particularly, he really wasn't seeing it well. He had 2 interceptions against the 15th ranked defense in the Big 12. You got to give that kid time. Neal talked about the injury happening at some point. Okay, but he still continued to play. He still got you down the field. He still had an opportunity to get you in the end zone. And you waited way too long to give him an opportunity to score. That is on Neal Brown. He calls the offensive plays. How does that happen out of a timeout? That is just mind-boggling to me. I don't understand how that happens. And to me, that is kind of the turning point in the game. You was 17-10. As bad as you played, as poorly as Garrett Green had played, you still had a chance to tie the damn game up going into halftime. and being right there with an opportunity. Now, at the same time, I don't know that they would have been able to keep up with Kansas State because they were just doing just about whatever they wanted to through the air. But you had a chance. So my whole feeling of this is I don't care about the injuries. Like, injuries are part of the game, they happen. Unfortunately, you had them kind of stack up on you last night. You entered the game without Aubrey Burks and Aiden Garnes. TJ Jackson was limited. Garrett goes down. Jaheim goes down. Wyatt Milam goes down. And obviously, not having those three pillars of your offense out there in the second half, it doesn't help the cause whatsoever. But I'm not in the business of just handing out a free pass. As you can probably tell on the article that I did this morning where it says it's year six, there's no more free passes. The game tilted when they didn't get the touchdown at the end of the first half, when they didn't get the play call in, when Neal Brown didn't get the play call in. That's when the game tilted for me. So if you score there, you have a chance. But then again, even the way that that first half played out, you were getting beaten on offense, defense, special teams. I'm not sure that a healthy Garrett, a healthy Jaheim, and a healthy Wyatt Milam would have made much of a difference in the second half in terms of the outcome of the game because everything was kind of unfolding in a similar fashion to the Iowa State game a week ago, where, yes, you were technically in the game, but the offense was a mess. You couldn't find any rhythm. There was no passing lanes. Your receivers weren't getting open. They weren't winning against press man coverage, which continues to be an issue with that group. You had no running lanes. CJ Donaldson couldn't get going again. CJ and Jaheim finished the night averaging a combined 2.7 yards per carry. That's not going to win you a game against a top 25 team, especially when your starting quarterback throws two interceptions and is under 50%. So, guys, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's year six. I've said this a million times. It's year six. When does it turn? When do the excuses stop? Last week, there's a lot of you know what about the officiating. This week, it's injuries. No. Each of these last two games, I'm not going to argue and say that officiating didn't have a impact in the game or the injuries didn't have a impact in this week's game. But they weren't the reason you lost. They weren't the reason you got your butts beat at home back to back weeks. It comes down to the small, minute details. Last week, it started with Rodney Gallagher dropping a catch on third down that would have been first and goal. You missed the field goal right after. 3 plays later, you give up a touchdown. This game, I point to, as I already laid out for you, getting the play call in way too late on fourth down. But also, what everyone probably forgets, you had a chance to really kind of set the momentum your way when you had an opportunity to recover a fumble on the kickoff. You did a good job by forcing one loose, couldn't jump on it. 2 plays later, Kansas State, wide open, touchdown. You cannot have those things happen. You can't have your quarterback missing a wide open pass to Jaheim White. It hit his hands. Jaheim's if it, I've always been told when I played when I was younger that if it touches your hands, you got to catch it. Now, in some instances, it's probably not always true because it's some really wild passes and you really have to reach to get it. And if you just happen to graze it with your fingertip, probably shouldn't be able to catch that one. But that one last night, it was underthrown. He still had both hands right there. that has to be caught. However, Garrett severely underthrew that pass, and he was wide open at midfield. Wide open. You can't have your fifth year starting quarter or your fifth year quarterback have those type of mishaps. You can't have him throwing off his back foot somewhat across his body because that ends up in a pick six. Those things do not bode well for you when you're playing a top 25 team. Sure, you can get away with it against Albany. You can get away with it against some teams in the Big 12, maybe, but not against Kansas State, not against Iowa State. And there's still a few teams on the schedule that those same rules apply. So I don't know what the administration is looking at, what they're hoping for. Again, I'm not here to light a fire under Neal Brown and say that he's on the hot seat. The numbers speak for themselves. The record speaks for themselves. All these little data points that I put out there on Twitter or in my articles, and I'm not the only one that's put it out there. It's out there for public consumption. Everyone can see it. Everyone knows what it is. But for some reason, there's not much of an urgency to get it changed. All I'm saying is that if you want to be a serious football place, you have to produce results. 6 years in, and they have yet to get their return on their investment. And I'm not saying you're gonna catch lightning in a bottle, and the next coach that you hire, boom, it's gonna be he's the next Signetti, and he's gonna have them 7-0 in year one. It's not gonna happen all the time. But there are so many examples out there that change is good. Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State is a great example. They're 5-2. They lost a tough one yesterday without their starting quarterback. But that team has completely changed around. They already hit the over for their season win total. They were picked to finish dead last, I believe, in the Big 12 in the preseason. Look where they are. And that's a legitimate, pick dead last and actually doing something. Last year, West Virginia benefited from a weak schedule. Arizona, I challenge you to go or encourage you to go look at Arizona State's previous history before Kenny Dillingham got there this year. Look how bad that program was down. It was really, really bad. They couldn't find any hope. Kenny Dillingham comes in there and turns that around. The team that beat them yesterday, Cincinnati. This is year 2 for Scott Satterfield. Year 2 at Cincinnati, a team that itself is only in year 2 of being a Power 4 team. Look where they are. Kansas State, Chris Kleiman. He was hired the same year as Neal Brown. All he's done is win. He's had them in the mix for the Big 12 title. He's had them playing there in the Big 12 title. Winning bowl games, showing progress every year. You don't see that here in Morgantown. You just don't. Again, I ask, how much longer of a leash does one need? Because this might be the longest leash in college football. And at this point, I don't know what would justify a Neal Brown return in 2025. Again, I'm not vouching for a change to be made. I'm just simply laying out the facts and stacking it up against everyone else in college football. These things don't get a free pass anywhere else. Why should it here in West Virginia, the 15th winningest program in football history? You cannot find a 6 year stretch in the history of this program that even rivals this one that the Mountaineers are currently in until you go all the way back to Gene Corum from 1960 to 1965. Folks, 1960 was the year that my mom was born. Does that tell you anything? Since the year I was born in 1996, West Virginia's had 6 losing seasons. Neal Brown's responsible for 3 of those. The other 3 were kind of scattered here and there. I don't know what it will take. I don't know what, again, the administration wants. But again, you have to look at the amounting losses that you're continuing to see. The buyout is expensive. Every buyout is. There's a reason why it's called that and why everyone wants to avoid the buyout. But it's getting to a point where the fan base is way, way, way on the other side of Neal Brown, and you're going to lose people. Now, this fan base is diehard. There's no going to find another team somewhere else. This is their team. They're going to be there each and every Saturday, but the noise is only going to get louder. You don't have the full support. So while the seats still may be full, the checkbook for the trust or the MAC or whoever it is may not be as full when this stuff continues to happen. A change, just simply a change, will have people excited, regardless of who it is, regardless if you agree on whoever that next coach may be, if there is one. Because it's a hope, it's an optimism that things will change on the field. I've seen countless comments on Facebook, Twitter, any social media platform, fans essentially threatening to say they're not going to renew their season tickets next year. Fans saying they're not going to go back to a single game, if this current regime continues. This is not me speaking. This is the fans speaking. That noise is only going to get louder. And you still have the effects of the comments made early last week still hanging around. Fans are not having fun, Neal. It's year 6. And I'm not sure that there's anything that this team in 2024 can do to restore the hope of this fan base. And I'll say it one more time. Barring some miraculous finish to the season, and for those that follow me on Twitter, you've seen this tweet. For those that read my stuff, you've read this on my Sunday morning column. Barring some miraculous winning stretch here down the season at the end of the season where they win out, win games convincingly, win their bowl game, and have a whole hell of a lot of help, the Mountaineers will have gone 6 full seasons without making a single appearance in the AP Top 25. You're in the same boat as Rutgers, Vanderbilt, and Texas Tech. And if you watch the Walkthrough Game Day show here on our channel at West Virginia on SI, you know that Eugene and I typically use Rutgers and Vanderbilt as the butt of jokes for, knocking on the SEC and the Big Ten. You're in the same company as them. So that's all I got for you. I could go on for another couple hours, but no one wants to hear that. It's time to turn the page to Arizona. We will do that here in the next day, and we'll see what happens as the Mountaineers get ready to go to Tucson before Entering a much needed bye week, guys are banged up. They could use some guys healthy for sure. But again, there's no free passes. You just said on Thursday, or it may have been the press conference, that everyone's around the country is enamored with the backup quarterback, and it's just so happened because West Virginia has one that can play. That's the words that came out of Neal Brown's mouth. Nico Marchiol last night, 6 of 13, 58 yards and a touchdown, 9 carries, 0 yards. I understand he had limited reps. I understand he missed a practice during the week, but that's just the reality of the numbers, guys. Is Nico Marchiol going to save this team? I don't know. That's going to do it for me here today. I've got some Sunday football that I got to go watch, got to go cover the Panthers. More fun for me. So make sure you hit that subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Give us a follow at SI_WVU. And we will be back here on Tuesday talking some more about the current state of WVU football. And then Wednesday, we will turn the page, at least on the show, to the Arizona State or the Arizona Wildcats and what the Mountaineers will need to do to get a win next week before the bye. And the walkthrough game day show will be on Thursday to preview that one. So thank you guys for tuning in, for reading. We truly appreciate all the support, even during a trying season. We thank you for keep on showing up and making this show happen. So thank you. We'll see you here on Tuesday. Take care.